This is Molly Zhang, and you are watching Spoiler Force.
All right, so this is episode 138 of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky, and thank you for tuning in. This week's guest is a voice actress that I'm having on. She is on shows like Shikimori's Not Just the Cutie. Also, there's another one here I have pulled up. I didn't memorize my lines here. She's also on More Than a Married Couple and also on games like Smite, Ruby, War of the Visions of Final Fantasy. So let me bring my guest here, Molly Zhang. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Hi!
Yeah, so as we were speaking earlier, I
Mhm,
struggled with that intro already. So so like I was telling you earlier, like when I hear voice actors or talk to
mhm,
them on my show, it's just I'm so impressed with how easily you guys do this because I think for me, I speak way too fast and I think way too fast, and so
mhm.
it doesn't match up. So like I don't know how you guys do it. You guys just make it look so easy.
No, but to be fair, Shikimori is also that title is a mouthful. That
Yeah.
one, it took me a little bit too, so that's on anybody.
Okay, well, Molly, I just want to again. I've already said it before we started recording, but thank you for
Mhm.
being on this show.
Yeah.
I do want to let the fans and followers know how this happened because I was sending out emails like crazy back in like August just to anyone and anyone really just to see if they wanted to be on the show. And then when you responded, I was not expecting that. I just saw the email. I'm like, when did I email Molly? I'm like, when was this? And I looked at the date. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was way back in August.
Yeah. So my website, because I'm cheap, I didn't really invest in like a well, I mean, I think card does its job, but definitely it got caught in there's like an audit when you use a contact form, it gets caught in this like automatic send thing, and I forgot that I created my card on the wrong email. That was like I made it before I started voice acting, and I made it on my like personal video game gotcha email account that I used to sign up for a bunch of freebie stuff. And I disabled it because I was getting messages that were kind of spammy. And then I turned it back on once I switched to my voiceover email, and I didn't turn it back on, clearly. I forgot to turn it back on. And so when I did turn it back on, I started getting stuff, and I was like, oh, this is cool. This is okay. Yeah, I'll do this. And then I saw the date, and I was like, might have been a little while. So that happens a lot. I am not the greatest with technology or social media. I have been told by good friends I need to do role announcements more often. I'm also really bad at that, and also just Twitter in general because I mostly use Twitter for Final Fantasy 14, Fire Emblem, just like as a fan using that rather than as a voice actor.
How did how did you get into voice acting really? Because I read your bio on your website and you were or did nursing, right? And then you just switched over.
So I started working at the hospital the day after I graduated college. There was just no break in between. And you're gonna hear this a lot from Asian voice actors, but Asian background tends to
Yes.
be lawyer, engineer, or doctor. And for us, nursing is like the bottom acceptable career for Asian parents. But my mom's a single mom, so she's like, I'm gonna count what I can get. And she spent her entire lifetime trying to prevent me from playing video games. This is gonna go off on a tangent. My friends all know this and they make fun of me for it. But she spent every waking moment trying to prevent me from playing video games, and the only place where I could play in peace was the shower. So I take my phone into the shower, I take my Game Boys into the shower. I broke my DS Lite in middle school because I was playing in the shower. I brought my laptop into the shower at some point.
Oh my god.
I would be holding it in front of me while the shower is running because that was the only place that my mom wouldn't come and barge in and be like, do your homework and stuff. And and that kind of that bad habit just stuck with me. And so to this day, I'll be my friends like, hey, you guys, you want to watch a movie? I'm like, oh, let me finish my shower, and I'll be doing it in the shower. And uh, they called me words for this, but it's just bad. But yeah, how I got into voice acting, I started working, and I already knew before I got into the job that or the hospital job, I already knew I wasn't gonna like it. But at the time, I my mom was very fair. She had mentioned if there was something I wanted to do more that could support me financially, she was willing to let me explore it. She afforded me a lot of luxuries to try to explore what I wanted to do. And voice acting obviously was not on the tables at the time. I did not even grow up on dub, so came pretty out of left field. And I started working, and I got really depressed, and I really didn't like it. And um, after a while, you've seen kind of enough. I love. I don't love it because that's not good for the patient, but I do love seeing blood and stuff and gore. And I work in the ED. I did my residency in the ED. I really like that kind of stuff. So I wasn't opposed to the job, but it was pretty depressing. And I started voice acting actually because I am a huge Fire Emblem fan, and there was a fandom that was looking for voice actors, and it was on the r/fe, and I kind of was like didn't really understand. I didn't really know what a fandub was, and I know in this industry starting on fandubs is common, but not exactly like the most like, "Oh, that's a great place to start," because I know, there's, like, controversy with fandoms and whatnot, but I started just because I liked Fire Emblem. I was always frequenting the Reddit to try to find things that I could do, and, I auditioned for it with my Apple headset, like, the wired ones. This is before AirPods came out, I think. This was back in 2018, I wanna say,
I
maybe
still have
AirPods were
mine.
out.
It's literally on
I mean,
my
they
desk behind me.
work,
Yeah.
they work. So I did my audition, and I still remember it was Fire Emblem 6. It was one that was not localized in America, and I had auditioned for Melody, and, I got the role, and I met, one of my best friends in voice acting, and I think one of the reasons I'm still voice acting is because I met this person, and I just kinda did more and more fandubs from there, and it wasn't until 20 late 2019, 2020 that, I got recommended by someone who didn't really know me, but that was just a really cool person, and they recommended me for Smite, and then I auditioned for that, and I booked that, and I was like, "Oh, this is kinda cool, I can I can do more of this," and then during this whole entire time, I'm still working full-time at the hospital. um, it it just kind of took off during the pandemic too, which is kind of horrible to say. I was eating lunch with my friends today, I was saying, like, how many of our careers, especially for voice actors that aren't in LA, how many of us kind of saw so many rosters open up during the pandemic, because 1, they weren't recording in studio, and 2, there was a huge push for representation in voice acting. And so I had gotten a lot of opportunities to, record for game studios that I had never like, just it didn't seem like a possibility before, and some of them I still can't I'm never gonna be able to announce because those NDAs are unpredictable.
Right. No, it's
Um
fine.
yeah, but anime came pretty late. I have lived in Texas pretty much my entire I was born in China and I immigrated here. But ever since I did, I've been in Texas, and I've never been brought in by Crunchyroll ever before until not even during the pandemic. Because I had only worked with the satellite studios like Sound Cadence. They're the first people who brought me on. And Crunchyroll, Emily Fajardo at Crunchyroll is the first person who brought me on, and that's how I started doing more and more anime. But yeah, all of this is during while I'm still working full time, and I went back to school. I'm still kind of in school for a nursing degree, and I'm wrapping that up. So it's it's kind of weird. But as voice acting gets to be more and more lucrative, and then obviously I enjoy it more, I'm hoping to transition to a more voice acting full time instead of my job. I hope my employer doesn't hear that.
I'm just really impressed with how you're balancing all this. Like, I work a full-time job and I'm doing this podcast stuff pretty much
Mhm,
like almost full-time myself.
mhm,
I can barely balance this out. And
mhm,
let alone go to school and trying to get your nursing degree and do voice acting. And I already know, like with voice acting, you go in there for a few hours on whatever days that you're booked for, but still you have to memorize lines, you have to know what you're watching, or if they let you, you can read the manga of the series or whatever that you're in. So like that's so much to take in. I don't know how you're doing that. That's very like that's a workload for me. I would not. I couldn't do that. I would have to drop one or the other.
mhm. The bulk of the time spent on voice acting is auditioning. It really is just auditioning, and I think this is going to be different for people who have agents who have more to audition for. But for me, it's kind of I'll take what I can get, and then, whenever Crunchyroll brings me in, I'll drive my butt over there and record there, and other than that, voice acting tends to be a lot of, in between job maintenance work, so I try to keep my studio space up to date. I try to keep my website up to date, but let's be honest, that's, like, lower in the priority list, and, I try to take classes. Classes are a really big thing that I think people are gonna get different mileages out of it. For me, I think the first few years, the classes didn't do much for me. I wasn't really performing that well, in front of the whoever was teaching it. I remember I took Chris Hackney's class just because he was in Fire Emblem, and I was a huge fan of his performance. Don't take classes with that intention. Well, you can, but try to do it with the learning mindset. And, yeah, I think the most time consuming part of voice acting is the classes. I still don't have demo reels made yet, and I really need to, and everybody gets on to me about those,
I was
but
actually trying to find that on YouTube earlier. I was
uh,
like, and it's like your name is pretty common on like on
yeah.
YouTube, so like it is pretty. I don't want to say time consuming, but it is more work, especially when you're trying to promote yourself as well as an actor. I've seen that a lot when it
I
comes to
need to be
voice
better
acting.
about that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's like a lot of or at least the ones I've met or I have out on the show, like they're constantly doing other projects besides just voice acting too. But yeah, I
Mhm.
think it's great that you brought up classes because a lot of I don't know if you've been have you been to some conventions already or not yet?
I have only been to conventions in, like, a fan capacity, and I remember
Okay.
I remember going one year, Yuri on Ice came out, and everybody was doing the dub panel signings, and I was like, "Oh, who watched this in dub?" And then I was one of those kids growing up. It was bad. Like, I went straight to that panel, and I went to Ian Sinclair because he voices Berkut, and I was like, "Can you sign my limited edition blah, blah, blah?" I did not care about anime dubs at the time, which is so sad because I do feel like video game dubs and anime dubs have whole different perceptions from the fan base, and people just, like, don't like dubs sometimes. Uh-oh, I dropped something. But I don't know. As I got into dubbing. Also, don't go into dubbing with like, "Oh, dubs suck." Don't go into that with that
Oh yeah.
mentality. It is well, I don't have, like, enough brain cells to process it sometimes, but dubbing is hard. It's I'm I know people who've done it for a while, they can say it's easy, but for me, when I first started, because you've got the picture, you've got the script, and none of the sounds you're making out of your mouth are natural sounds. Yeah, you have to, like, look at the open mouth, closed mouth, like, it'll be closed mouth gasp or something. I'm like, what do I do here? I don't understand. And you have to do all of that while reading. I need to if I'm reading something, I need to be reading something. I can't be looking at the picture and reading. And if you have
Right.
good memory, which I don't, because I don't have a background in acting or theater or any of that. So I don't when I see lines, my first instinct isn't to like memorize it. And I also just don't have, again, we're going to go back to the brain cells many times, not many of them. So when I'm memorizing stuff, it's got to be a short line. It's got to be either a short line or something that like very commonly comes off the tongue. If it's an anime dialogue, anime does not usually do that. It's a bit hard. And so my first time doing ADR, I am so thankful. I had the best engineer ever. His name's Jamal at Crunchyroll, and also Emily was my director. And they are the nicest people ever. They put up with me for so long because I sucked at anime. I'm not good at it at all. To this day, every time I get cast or something, I'm just like, oh my god, how did this happen? How can this be? Because I probably take more time than somebody that's been doing it for a long time and they're really, really good. Because ADR to me is it's not quite competing. Video games, you have the freedom to take as okay, not as much time as you want, but you can kind of mull over the delivery you want to do. You can kind of talk at a more human pace. And not saying you can't with anime, but it tends to be pretty quick. Um, and sometimes it doesn't feel as like this is the sound I would never make, but I really like doing it. I really hope I can get better at it. But I don't know. I just hope I hope I get more jobs in anime. Not to out myself. I still do the job. I still get it done. Just I don't know how it gets done. Also, the engineer fixes most of the
Oh yeah.
bugs that we have. So kudos
Yeah.
to all the engineers.
I think it's great that you brought up the whole dub sub thing because that's how I was initially when I was watching anime. I think like the only real dubbed anime I watched was like the old ones like Pokemon or Dragon Ball Z or like
Oh,
Tenshinmyo,
really?
like
Uh-huh.
the Toonami stuff, right? But then
Mhm.
once I got into like Naruto or Bleach or uh some of the Attack on Titan, like I watched all that stuff subbed, and
Mhm.
I had that mindset. It was like, yeah, sub was way better than dub. And then well, Adam MacArthur was the first dub actor I had on my show, and I
Mhm.
brought it up to him, and he talked about like, he said it's like what you said, it's different because
It is different.
when you're doing the work for dub, that's why it sounds the way it does sometimes. And then like, it gave me a whole new perspective of just like hearing English dub actors now versus back then. Like before, I would trash it. I'm like it's not good, it's terrible, it's cringy. But now when I go into watching it dubbed now, I'm more like, okay, so this is why they have to take these breaks or pauses, or sometimes like you even have to like change up the script because like you said, ADR, it's all about like matching the mouth flaps and like getting the words out right, because it's not gonna make sense if you just say it at a regular pace. You have to like say it a little bit slower or a little bit faster. It's not so much more natural when you're doing that.
I think of it as like your job as the actor is to make a really convincing performance, and then the lip flaps just kind of get in your way.
Yeah.
Darn the lip flaps, but it's a collaborative process, and I think it does work really well. And kind of responding to your dub versus sub thing, I dub performances I think are so undercredited, especially some of the older ones too. Although I didn't watch as many older ones growing up. I think my first one I've ever seen was Inuyasha, that dub. That one was fantastic. And then I watched the Full Metal Alchemist dub, the Brotherhood dub. That one is also fantastic. I still remember the scene with Mustang and Envy. Yeah, with Envy, that scene was to this day like one of the really good ones. But even outside of these like really big popular animes, um, Jerry Jewell has a performance as Psyche. Have you ever watched The Disastrous Life of Psyche K?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, the season 1 dub, I think it was done by Funimation a couple of years ago. That one is so good, and that's, like, the first one I've seen that's, like, more comedic side, and everybody talks really, really fast, but the comedy that's in the Japanese version still carries through in the English version, and that I'm gonna credit half of that to writing and half of it because Jerry Jewell is just fantastic at delivering these more deadpan lines, but, um, I remember taking the show and watching it in English. I really like having dubs. Like if I'm playing Final Fantasy 14 and I have like an anime on the side, I prefer to have it in dub so I can kind of listen and watch at the same time. I can't do that with sub. But this one was definitely one where I loved it so much. I brought it to my sub elitist friends, and I told them if you watch the dub first, you're not gonna think the sub is better. And I think that's a huge approach to it. Is whichever one you're exposed to first, you tend to gravitate toward that. And because sub is always released first, you tend to watch the sub and then the dub. But I really don't. I nowadays I'm a big fan of dub performances. I think everyone does such a good job, especially given what they have. They do some. I don't know how they get out how they do it, but it's some crazy work. And people will talk about the nuances and like the specifics in the sub version, and like, can you understand what they're saying to be able to critique that? Some of the I mean, it's undoubtedly a fantastic performance on the sub side. That this is why they're the reigning favorites of voice acting. But, I just think it's important to evaluate that, take credit for that, and, like, not compare the dub with the same criteria because it's a different language, you don't really understand what they're saying, and unless you do, then kudos to you, but if you don't, I think there's different things to evaluate performances.
I've always looked at it more like the expressions in the languages are different. It's like when you
Mhm,
hear it in Japanese, they express things different than how we would in English, and so like
mhm,
that's something I had to like wrap my head around with, because
mhm,
I was so caught up. Like one of my favorite Japanese voice actors is Yuki Kaji. He does like the voice of
yeah,
Eren and
Aaron,
and
mhm,
Shoto from My Hero. Like
mhm,
he's to me, he's like one of the goats.
mhm.
And so when I hear other
He
actors
is,
who play his parts, it's
mhm.
hard not to compare to it. But I
It
also
is
have to
hard.
consider like
Mhm,
the way how he's expressing himself would be translated a lot differently if it was in English. So I can't be too hard on other English dub actors who do
mhm,
his characters roles too. So I have to like I had to learn
mhm.
to kind of differentiate that. It's kind of like sort of like with music, right? It just it's different. It's still music, but it's just different genres and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Mhm,
that's how I see it now. But no, I wanted to bring up this earlier. We were talking about like the classes thing.
mhm,
Uh Rico Fajardo was one of the another guest I had on my show earlier this year, and
Also
he was
fantastic actor.
oh, he's an amazing
Mhm,
actor and just an amazing person in general.
mhm,
So Rico, if you're watching this, shout out to you. No, but Rico brought up a great point in one of the panels that I went to see him in, and he was like, constantly he was saying like constantly take classes or do auditions like crazy as an actor, because whether it's a big role or like just like a small commercial thing, it's
mhm.
still giving you like prep time
Practice.
to
Mhm,
learn and practice. All right, get your reps in
mhm.
and stuff like that. So for you, is that something that you kind of see yourself doing too, like trying to get as much reps in when you're doing other things besides like anime or gaming?
Yeah, something I'm trying to break into is commercial, but that's a whole different one. I So the thing with classes is, there's so many out there and so many different people teaching. I think like for most of this year, I went pretty hard on taking classes. And I'm starting to realize there's like a difference between classes and maybe a workout group and private coaching. So voice acting in the States is very different than Japan because they've got voice acting schools and whatnot. For us here, I'm starting to realize that private coaching is very effective, but very, very, very expensive. And
Right.
then these like classes where there's a voice acting guest and they have like a 2 to 3 hour class with the class of 20 people, and we just like each take turns going up to speak. That is also still very effective, but to a lesser degree, and it's more moderately priced. But I do feel like most of it is you watching other people perform in the class. And
Is it kind of like
again,
improv a little bit?
you're so the teacher will give you a script. They'll give you
Okay.
multiple scripts that you can pick from that you think best highlights. But rather than a class, it does feel like this is my chance to demonstrate my ability in front of this crowd and this teacher and hopefully get on their roster to audition. And that's also the format for agent nights when you're trying to sell yourself to an agent. You kind of have like that one agent and like maybe 10 people, and you can take turns reading. I went hard on those classes, and I don't know if that was the most effective thing for me. I know some friends got on rosters that way, but for me, I just didn't really get much out of it, and I was spending a bunch of money on it. What ended up being really effective is just kind of getting a small group of friends together, pulling out some scripts from classes that we have taken before. So one of the really good private teachers I had was Mick Wingert, and he provides. Do you know Mick Wingert's work? He does a lot of animation and
Um, I'm gonna be honest, I don't.
okay, no problem, no problem.
Yeah.
But he's fantastic, and he's a really good teacher. And so he gives his students this link to scripts that are for commercial animation, and then you can just kind of gather some friends around, take turns reading at it, and then giving each other critique. And also, every audition you do, good practice, especially if you get a callback, like, oh, that's the right direction. And then, like, as you audition for different directors, you kind of have an idea what their preferences are. So, like, oh, this director likes to hear more grounded reads, so I'm gonna go that way. This director says they like it this way, but they've cast me for this way before. So I don't know, you just kind of everything comes with time and experience and kind of figuring things out from there. But I do think classes are something that are undoubtedly important. They are so important. But kind of be more choosy with what classes that you're taking, because if you're going to spend, these classes are not cheap. I remember one month I took so many classes that my paycheck afterwards, I was like, oh my god, am I going to pay rent? So don't do that. But definitely, as a voice actor, the only thing you can do in between gigs is to practice and try to get better. Marissa Lenti has a great thread somewhere on Twitter that I bookmarked because I thought it was really important. They have like a list of things that you can do in between bookings, and it was like maybe learn a new accent, maybe try learning how to sing. Besides taking classes and whatnot, I just thought there's a lot to do in between. There's a lot, and not all of them require a bunch of money to invest in. And I don't want people to think that the only way you're going to improve is by paying for it, because there are so many ways to practice, and classes
Yeah,
are one of the top.
that's a great point you bring up too, like just so that anyone who is trying to be a voice actor or getting to acting, like to like find a more broad way of just find other places to learn, because I know that a lot of other voice actors do like post up workshops and stuff like that, so
Mhm,
they'll do like Zoom meetings and stuff like that.
mhm.
So I know people like to do that, especially if they have like a favorite voice actor that does like Steve Bloom's one. I see his stuff
Oh,
all the
he has
time
a
on like
lot of
on
classes, mhm.
yeah, so I see his stuff a lot, and so I figure, like, the people who do like Steve Bloom, they'll go to those workshops because it's him. And like you said, you don't go in there with the fan with the fan mindset. You have to go in there with the learning mindset. I don't know. I'm not saying people do, but if it, I do see that. Because even me, like if I was to take voice acting classes and I saw that, I'm like, oh, Steve Bloom, like I know his work. Like I would go in there with a fan mindset. I wouldn't go there with like
It's
trying to learn.
hard, especially
Yeah,
if you, like, know their performances and you hear their voice, it's like, oh,
trying not
it's
to geek
really
out in
fun.
class. Like,
It's
oh my
really funny.
god.
Chris Hackney voices Dimitri in Fire Emblem. Again, I'm a big Fire Emblem fan, and he voices Dimitri in Blue Lions, and I had my Blue Lion shirt. I had, like, a poster in the background. I was shameless. Still did the voice acting. Can't really attest to the quality of the performance because I was so, otherwise preoccupied, but don't do that again. I
Yeah.
don't recommend doing that. It was a fantastic class, and he taught so much, but the entire time I was like, "Wow, he's really good," and that's you don't wanna go to class with only one like, head empty, one thought.
I mean, so the classes you take, do you go like in person as well, or do you just do like the Zoom call type classes?
So, I know some people are doing more classes in person, especially in LA, and I think to extension also Texas. I haven't gone to any of them though. I'd be interested to, but every time I see one, they tend to be pretty pricey. I've seen like some that are in the $400, $500 price points, and that's just not an investment that I can make right now. So primarily, the classes I've taken in the past year have been online through. I think it's exclusively through Zoom. I don't think I've taken any of them through other platforms, but because it is remote and online, you have the opportunity to meet a lot of different people that
Right.
I'm probably never going to meet, but the Zoom opens up accessibility a lot.
Yeah, I think that goes, for a lot of actors. Do you find like that a little bit more, I guess, uh not so much challenging, but seeing, I guess, in a way, seeing the competition, like, because now that it's so much easier for people to do like remote calls like that, like you're seeing a bunch of talent from everywhere versus like just going to a class, like, oh, like you can kind of like, I guess, size up, who's who. And especially when you're doing Zoom calls, like there's people from everywhere just taking
Mhm.
these classes. So do you ever feel like, do you, I guess, not intimidated, but like just knowing that that's the competition that you're with?
So, I am naturally a very intimidated person. So, yes, but also, it's it took me a couple of classes to be comfortable, and ultimately, it's very important to, leave a good impression for your fellow classmates, but, um, I don't know, you just wanna do the best you can in the class
Right.
to impress everybody, and if I see someone perform really well, um I tend to, like, take notes. I have a little notepad. I dropped it a couple of days ago. I don't know where it's I have my booth, and it's got, like, panels, and then there's, like, a hole right there, and I don't it's somewhere behind the panels. But I kinda take notes on what I like, and I try to steal it so that I can use it. It'll make me more powerful. But I think, it's infinitely more beneficial to have people in your class that are really, really good actors versus people who are you don't have much to learn from. Again, you can learn something from everybody, but for those actors that, like, you're not gonna meet I don't remember who I can't remember, it's been a while since I've taken classes, but if there's someone in your class and you're a big fan of their work, you can, like, first say oh, Youngie. It was a class with Youngie Chang, and it was, I think it was either for Caitlin Gauld's class or something, but he had I'm a big fan of his work too, so when I saw him perform, I was like, "Steal all of this." But it's just really interesting to see, because 'cause we're all given the same script, and it's really fun to see how different people approach the script differently from how you do it. I think, this whole remote thing opening up only brings more I don't know, more people to meet, more people to see, more people to hear from, which I think is always a good thing. We love hearing new voices in shows and video games, and half the time, the only time I'm getting LA work is because it's remote. So I'm very happy with it. I know that's not gonna be the universally shared opinion, but I do think the wider the net, the better.
And it's also a great way to start like networking with people too, like especially if you can, be colleagues with some of these more talented, the more talented actors, and just try to like, kind of just learn from them, and then maybe, they can give you tips or advice on how to be better or how to improve. And it's the same thing for me too. Like when I see like other podcasters, like I try and I do get intimidated a little bit when I do see how good they are, and just like, man,
Uh-huh,
what can I do like to be a little bit better than that, or just
uh-huh.
to improve myself. So like I have to, for me, I have to like also kind of like take a step back and like look, this is not like a race, or this is not like a like a Call of Duty, game. We're not trying to kill each other. We're just trying to be better. So I have to like not think so negatively when it comes to seeing other people in the same like, I guess, entertainment field or trying to do the same thing. It's just more so like what can I do to improve? And I think with voice acting, like I said, I love hearing like different styles of what people do, or like just hearing whether you're someone coming up or someone already at the top. Like it's there's always something different when it comes to just getting the roles or saying like certain lines or doing different shows.
Mhm. Yeah, and another aspect of that is I think English dubbing is only getting more and more popular, whether that's for anime or video games, and only from what I've seen, more and more games and anime are even getting English dubs. So to me, there is an element of competition just because there's only so many roles to go around, but there are more roles going around, in my opinion, because every season when I see the anime that Crunchyroll I don't know, I'm not too familiar with the LA scene, but every time I see a new season of Crunchyroll anime, I'm always really impressed at how many are getting dubbed now. It's kind of crazy. And then like to also talk about how popular anime has gotten. I had my residency interview I think 2 days ago, and I like briefly they were asking me like, how do you deal with stress? I was like, oh, I do voice acting. And they emailed me afterwards saying, oh, could you tell us what shows that you're on? And I was like, "Oh, okay." Because, like, when I was growing up, you don't talk about anime. You watch Naruto, ew, gross. Nerd, whatever. I was in League of Legends club. I was in Smash Bros club. I was not popular in school. But now it's a different climate, and I think, there's still gonna be people who like, dubs suck, but I do think it's getting bigger, it's getting more popular, and, I think about shows like One Piece, they have to keep finding new people.
Oh yeah.
They have to expand that pool. There's too many characters. There literally is too many roles to go around. And I just think, again, remote is a really, really great option to expand that pool. And yeah, I don't know. And I think about gotchas like Genshin and how many characters they've been releasing. And then Genshin's making
Oh
other
man.
games with more and more characters. There's that new game with the girls with the guns, and they got like
I know what you're talking about. Like
oh, that one.
I know you're because I've seen like Emmy Lowe post up something about that game,
That
and
one
like
is slightly, very NSFW sometimes, but,
yeah, it's
uh,
it's
it's got the
definitely a
booty.
lot of waifus in there for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. No, I see that one, because those kinda gotcha games, I don't think I've because I've played a lot of gotcha games. I don't think I've seen many of them get an English dub, so to see more and more of this come out alongside anime, I think my friend Jacob Hawkins has once mentioned that anime was like sometimes it's more popular than Western animation. Cannot don't quote me on that. I don't know if that's actually a fact, but I remember hearing that and be like, no way, really? But no, I just think things what this boomer grew up on nowadays is just a different environment, a different climate. I've had patients who watch anime who like I had a patient with a One Piece croc. He had like the little like Luffy was in the holes, and then like the croc decoration things.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
had that. That was like a great common talking point. It's just a different era. I'm getting old. I don't midlife crisis coming up.
No, I agree with 100% with that. Like, I think anime has blown up so quickly in the past like 5 to 6 years or so, maybe even more,
Mhm.
because even with like athletes or musicians or like people in the mainstream media, like they're promoting that stuff. Like even Lady Gaga recently had
Yeah.
that the Crunchyroll
Oh,
crossover.
really?
Yeah, like for her clothing. Like I was tempted to buy a shirt just because. And then you got like the internet influencers like RDC World, like those guys have like expanded anime so big in the in just in the community overall. And it just like it's not like before where you would get made fun of for watching anime. Now it's like you're not cool if you don't watch anime now.
Yeah, I'm
So
realizing that now. That is insane. I feel like, ever since I graduated college, I just haven't left my room, and so I have no idea what's going on in the greater world outside. So to suddenly, I don't know, look around, I remember going to the mall, like, a few months back, and everybody was wearing, like, a Naruto shirt or a Demon Slayer thing. It was impressive. I'm baffled by
oh
this
yeah,
new world.
it's more like it's even in like modern day style, like like the Demon Slayer stuff, man. People are taking advantage of that because like there's only like certain colors or designs that was copyrighted, like the Tanjiro shirts, because it's
Mhm,
just squares. You can't really
mhm.
copyright that. So like a lot of I see like clothing brands online
Oh.
like take advantage of that those designs, making jackets out of it, like a nice graphic tee out of it or something. And so
Uh-huh.
like even people who don't watch anime, like they'll go and buy that stuff that's anime themed and wear it and like in a way promote it. So like I think like with anime, it's blowing up very fast.
I was born too soon.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I look like even some of my friends who made fun of me for watching anime. They'll be like, "Ricky, did you watch the show or did you read the manga for this?" I'm
Oh my
like really?
gosh.
You made fun of me for that, you know? Like,
I
but
remember when K-pop got popular. I remember when League of Legends got popular. Oh my gosh. And now anime. What's
oh
next?
yeah,
Who
I don't
knows?
know. I don't know. It could be any. I don't like. I think
It
K-pop is
could
like.
be.
I mean, K-pop
K-pop
already
is
got.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it is like super global at this point. Like everyone, like even for me, like I wasn't the biggest K-pop fan of. Like I used to make fun of people who listen to K-pop.
It'll be the
Until
most random people come up and like, are you Korean? Do you know about K?" Okay.
what band was it for you? Because for me, like it was not BTS.
Oh
It was
gosh.
Big Bang. It was Big Bang and 21 for me.
This is revealing my age. My first music video ever. I used to swim in high school, and I was at a swim meet. And I had a Korean person that was like in the stand, sitting next to my mom, watching Super Junior,
Oh
and
man.
it was Sorry Sorry, and I was like, oh, this is cool. What is this dance? I'm kind of into it. So then I didn't. If you Google "Sorry Sorry" at the time, because it was really early on, you didn't find anything. It was like because I think maybe the title was in Korean. Whatever the reason was, I could not find it until maybe 4 or 5 months later. I found out that person in the stand was one of my classmates' mom, and so she showed me, and then I got into Big Bang. I was obsessed with Haru Haru and Lies. And then I think that the time I started tapering off was in the EXO era when they came out. I stopped listening before BTS came out. So I know like BTS is the golden child right now. They're super super popular. But I don't know any of their songs. It lost me. I got into gaming. That's what happened.
Yeah, I know a few BTS songs, but it's I think with more the more modern K-pop stuff, it was Blackpink for me. And
Oh,
you can
heard of
see like
them.
the
Mhm.
the Blackpink box right there. I went to their concert in Dallas.
Oh,
It's the
cool.
little hammer
Oh,
things.
they have
It's sitting
concerts
right
in
there.
Dallas now, like in the US?
Yeah, it was back in like September, I think, like earlier than fall. Like I saw
That's
them
when you
live.
know things are getting a little well,
Yeah,
popular now.
yeah. So
Just like all the things that I grew up and people would like, scrunch their nose at, it's like I go back in time and be like, "Ew, now what?"
you seen like 21 Jump Street, right? Where like Jonah
Yes.
Hill's character is like, or no, it was Channing Tatum's character is like I know who did this. It's Glee. You know, it changed everything. You know, and then like Jonah Hill's like, man, if I was just born 10 years later, I would be super popular right now. You know, so
That's what I think now.
yeah,
When I have 2 voice acting friends, Josh Waters and Minton. They are really young. They're still in college, and they're voice actors, and they have, like I'm like, "Ugh, what I wouldn't give to go back and be a cool voice actor anime nerd in school. Darn."
if you want to start your own podcast like Spoiler Force, then sign up with Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout has helped hundreds of thousands of users like me to begin their podcasting journey. With easy to use tools, you can effectively get your podcast into different platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and more. You can view your stats, create audio clips, and even have your own podcasting website. Buzzsprout offers ideas, tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you improve your podcast. Follow the link below, and once you sign up, you'll get a $20 Amazon gift card. This will let Buzzsprout know that I sent you and will also support Spoiler Force Podcast. If you want a simpler way to record both video and audio for your podcast, then sign up with StreamYard. StreamYard is the perfect program to create podcasts, host live streams, and even do video calls. There are many tools that can help you create and design your own personal studio. You can screen share, read live comments, and stream to different destinations like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can also download your video and audio once you're done with your recording session. Follow the link below, and once you sign up with the basic or pro plan, you'll earn a $10 credit to use for StreamYard. Happy podcasting. Just because of the boom of anime, like you see how many people want to be voice actors. I think that's something that
Yeah.
is changed a lot because
Mhm.
before I remember uh like even just doing anything with voice acting or dubbing, like that stuff wasn't getting that kind of like funding for it. Like you'd do it, but it wasn't like as it is right now. Like it's insane to see how much people want to be like kind of like how they folks want to be like internet sensations or influencers. It's kind of like that with voice dubbing. Like you don't see people like wanting to be, or at least from what I've seen, is like they don't they don't want to be like on screen no more. It's more like, hey, I want to do like anime. Like I want to do like big animes or like mainstream stuff. Like it, I don't see like the kids that I see growing up now, like my nieces and nephews, like they want to do like the TikTok stuff and they want to do anime stuff. But like really, you don't want to try to be like a Oscar winning award winning actor or something. Like nope, we want to be like internet sensations. So it's very different now.
Yeah, so my perception on that, because I'm a different generation now, but growing up, you don't really see many Asians in American cinema to begin with, so your parents are not gonna be like, "Oh, that's a career I encourage you to do," because clearly it's possible, but no, it is possible, not to say it's not. But you're starting to see, like, traditionally, I'm speaking this, I'm not a professional on this topic, but from observations from my point of view, because that's how I got into voice acting, you're starting to see people who are not maybe stage or theater actors who start off as fans, and maybe they get more experience, take classes. Again, classes is really just what is it helps you realize, like, when I took my first class, I realized how bad I suck compared to everybody else, and that's what helped me improve. But you're starting to see more and more people that come from a different route of being interested in. You're starting to see the weebs as like
Oh
him, and then
yeah.
that's how I got it.
Yeah, yeah, it's
But
definitely like
and
usually with acting, it was always like stage plays or musicals, right? They
mhm.
kind of like branch off in that. Now it's just like, oh yeah, because I like
Yeah, you'll
certain
see
genres now.
yeah, you'll see people who, like, majored in theater and musical theater, and they're they are so good. That definitely is a very valuable skill set to have, and I would encourage everybody who's interested in anime or in voicing in video games and whatnot to kind of adapt into, maybe take, like, a theater class here and there, or go watch some, or it's very important. It's an invaluable tool set to have. But for me, I didn't have that, and we're the new generation of, like, we are very familiar with the media that we're dubbing. It's not like, the older days where maybe, like, they're not the fan of the project, but they kinda got pulled over to voice in
Right.
it, or I don't doubt they're still passionate about what they're dubbing, but nowadays, it's like, if I see an audition for something I really want, I'm just like, "Oh my."
I know
I
what that
have,
is,
like, a panic attack. Oh, I don't just know what that is, it's like, "Oh my god, I've been watching this since I was 4 years old," or
Right.
we get obsessed, and then when it comes out, we're so on top of it, we're so excited about it. It's 'cause we're that generation of of weebs who really
Right.
like the content that we do, and, I think you will definitely see more and more people become that from that route. It does again, it still helps to have that background in acting, it's only gonna propel you. It's even better if you're a weeb and you have theater background,
Right.
perfect.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point too. Like, there's an actor I spoke with, and he was like, yeah, a lot of the roles that I got, it wasn't something that I knew. I just did it because it was there, But like you said though, like a lot of the new and up and coming actors now, they're reading like the manga or watching the anime
Yeah.
ahead of time, and then they
Uh-huh.
get booked for that role, So like, I spoke with someone before, and they were like, yeah, they told me not to read the manga, but I did it anyway, and so like I don't know. I just think it's really cool not to see like people being fans of not just their work but of the series that they're on. I guess it gives like the actor like a better adaptation to the character that they're dubbing, like to kind of get into their shoes more versus just like winging it and not knowing what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, you're still gonna have performances like that, and performances that do stem from that route are still really good, but it's just like you're going to have more and more people know what they're dubbing, and it's just
Right.
it's less so for the fans and more so for the actor, just like, "This is a dream come true." You'll be like, I remember seeing Kira Buckland get cast as Jolene, that just makes everybody happy, you know? It's like, "This is so cool, this is" who wouldn't want this to happen to them? And it's so cool to see someone show you that it's not impossible, although Kira is just also just a fantastic actor. A lot of the times, in this industry, there's, like, a stigma, like, "Oh, your reads sound too anime," and that's why I think it's really important to have, an acting background to begin with, and, for a lot of people who came this route, we don't. So we have to try to learn it through other various means and methods. So classes is what everybody will recommend to you. But honestly, watching some of the older actors perform, you can hear a difference in the way that they perform versus the way that like the newer anime actors like me, we just we go a little too ham on things that don't need to be ham, and it just sounds like I want to be the best, and it just sounds too anime.
You know, I want to like bring it back to like just the conventions. I
Mhm.
know you said you went to some as fans, but have you ever been like invited to one as like as a guest at all, or is that something that you'd like to do?
Mm. I would like to do it. Oh, first of all, I need to make a demo reel. That's really what I need to do first. Demo reels are so expensive to produce that I keep thinking, if I'm gonna make one, I need to make it sound good because that's those are thousands of dollars. So I keep putting that off. But I would eventually like to do cons. I don't really know how they work. I have a couple of NDA stuff that I think I might wait till those come out before I start marketing a bit hard. Again, the voice acting game is really hard when you suck at marketing yourself, which is you have to be your own person to like no one else is going to cheer for you harder than you're going to cheer for yourself. Actually, that's a lie.
Right.
You there are some friends who cheer for you very hard, but you have to learn to market for yourself. And the more roles you have, you can get a convention agent who will market you for you, which is even better. But for where I am right now, because I just started anime in May, that was my Hachimitsu in Shikimori. That was my first named anime role ever. And I'm personally very happy with the progress that I've made. I do hope I can get more and maybe get into conventions, but I'm, just grateful for where I am right now because every time a season ends, because I got so lucky, I got reoccurring Hachimitsu right off the bat, and then the director Shogun brought me on for another reoccurring, and then I got laid back camp. So it was like my first few months at Crunchy, I almost always had steady work, which is huge because like this as soon as the season ends, I'm like, oh my god, I'm never going to work again. Nobody's ever gonna cast me. And then you go through that phase, and then you get an email saying, hey, blah blah blah, I'd like to book you for blah blah blah. And this season was Jason Lord, so thank you, Jason. But as soon as you until you get that email, you're like living in this like existential crisis moment where you don't know if you're ever gonna do work again. And that's just I don't know. Cons would be a great way to fill that time, but I think I probably need to book a bit more before I can start going to conventions.
Do you not have I guess like an agent working for you then, or are you still like I guess in a way freelancing?
I am completely I was one person has once told me that it is unacceptable to be where I am now without an agent. Because like usually people, everyone aims for those big LA agents that can get them into Final Fantasy and Fire Emblem and all the big commercials and the big AAA games. But there's also agents in Texas that I need to start looking into because it's always good to have some kind of agent on your corner. But for me, I've been very picky, and I don't have any right to be picky because I don't have any demo reels yet. And like every time, it's like, oh, I wish X person would book me, or oh, I wish X whatever agency would like what invite me. I don't know the word for this, but I need to put the work in first, and demo reels are definitely the first thing to do. Every time I approach demo reels, I just like I can't do this, I can't do this because you're spending so much money on it, and that's like reflective of you as an actor. And I have like a little meltdown every time. As you can see, I'm kind of all over the place. It's not the best.
Oh no, like you said earlier, you're still like doing other life stuff, going to school and all that. So
The
like I said,
goal is to quit.
it's impressive that you can do all of that while maintaining like a full-time job and going to school and trying to maintain like a social media presence there. That's a lot. Like even for me, like when I was doing all this podcasting stuff, like
Mhm.
just trying to maintain like the fact that I had to force myself to be on TikTok. Like
Uh-huh. Oh gosh,
I did
no.
not want to do it, but I had to. I'm just like, oh my god, I have to do it, and like I have to like all my stuff, like all my clips now, everything I'm doing is just like straight off my phone. Like I'm just like editing, making clips, and just like sending it out there, hoping someone will find it, and I'm not even doing honestly like compared to the amount of work you're putting in for yourself, like I can't even like say I'm putting in that kind of work. I'm just going to work and
No,
coming home and just
no,
like doing easy stuff. You're like
no.
really working hard. So I give you
Everybody
props
no,
for that.
no, I so many days I'll put auditions off to play Final Fantasy 14. Or like, how what I do to, have time is not sleep, don't recommend that. Especially during phases where I get hyper obsessed with a video game, I end up sleeping at, like, 3 o'clock, and so I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays from 6 AM to 6 AM, and I wake up at 5, and so those are 3 days where I'm pretty much not going to do anything, I've accepted this. Occasionally, they'll have me schedule, like, a really late night session if it's, "Hey, the episode is due tomorrow, can you come in?" And then I'll like, "Oh, I'll be dead, but I'll come in." I'll do that, or, but Wednesday, Thursdays, I try to study, and then Saturday, Sundays, I have clinicals, so it's like there was, like, a period during my semester where I pretty much just did not respond to anybody, and the only games I could play were gotchas because it was quick, like, you just get on, you do your dailies, and then you're out, and that was it. Because I don't think I can survive without video games, I'm an addict at this point.
You never thought about like I mean maybe after all when your nursing and stuff's all like settled down, but you never thought of like doing Twitch or anything like that, like playing games and stuff.
I honestly, if so I started nursing school not a year it hasn't been that long, but if Crunchyroll had brought me in just a little bit sooner, I think I just wouldn't have gone to nursing school at all. I just don't think, I think I would've just pursued voice acting, but it was just a little bit too late, and I have a scholarship from the school that covers all of my tuition. So by the time I started, like, making money from because voice acting was not making enough money to be full-time, or even if it was not if I'm going to quit my job, it has to be enough money to where I have insurance. If something happens, I can support my mom and myself, and it has to be that level. I know it's a higher criteria than most people would before they quit, but for me, that is the minimum that I need. And so, when voice acting I had been in stuff that paid good, but it wasn't consistent. Crunchyroll, I know people like to talk about, like, anime rates being really bad and inconsistent, but they're the only ones who have consistently brought me in. So for me, I I'm gonna jinx myself by saying they consistently bring me in. Next season, you're not gonna see me at all, watch. But it was still the my rates there are enough to where I probably could at least switch to part-time rather than full-time. And it would be a pay cut, but I would be a lot happier. And not to say I don't like nursing. I think I I personally really like seeing things that people don't usually get to see every day. I think not to make it like hashtag not like other girls, but I really like seeing that kind of blood and gore and like the grosser it is when they come in, the more I get to see, and that's why I was like, I applied to the OR because like, oh, I can see everything then. But I like having that aspect of my life. Ideally, I would like to be part time. I because voice acting is just so much fun. It's easily the most fun thing about like, I remember I'm just like I woke up one day, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so happy to be alive because I have a session today, I'm so excited." And, that was my first time. Not to say I'm a depressed person because 'cause I'm usually not, but it was just when you're
Something
passionate about
different, right?
doing something,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so different, and I've spent all my life doing healthcare, and I thought I liked it, and I think I do, but it's a different kind of level of like. It's like the feeling I get when I talk about Fire Emblem and Final Fantasy 14, that's how I feel about voice acting, and that's when you know. That's when you know it's a good that's the one for you, and I think so many people spend so much time and money trying to find what hobbies suit them, that once you do find it, you really should hang on to it and just like if it doesn't make money, just keep going. Because I remember I told myself my first year of voice acting, if I didn't get cast for an indie game, I was gonna quit. But I'm still here, so you never know where it's gonna go.
You never thought of like playing games and streaming it though, like on Twitch or
I
like
don't know. I don't know if I have the personality for that. One, I'm not good at video games. I like to talk like I am, but I'm not. And then two, I don't know if I have like an entertainer's personality. I I've talked to you about the lack of brain cells during ADR dubbing. That would also be the case if I have a chat to look at and then my game. And then I have some friends who are really into Twitch that like mess with the UI and they have like soundboards and stuff. I don't know the first thing about I would like to, maybe. I'm just so unfamiliar with that aspect. Maybe eventually I'll look into it, but just seeing how bad I am with social media, I don't know if adding Twitch is going to be a better one. I think YouTube. I've streamed on YouTube one time before when Fire Emblem Three Houses came out. I didn't know how that worked either. But I don't know if anybody wants to show me how to use Twitch. I could try it, but I've never really thought about it.
Because I know some voice actors that are like doing that too, like just to bring in like another source of income.
Mhm.
Ann Yatko, she does a Twitch stream. She plays Genshin, and she
Yeah,
does
but she's
that.
also like a god in
I know
Genshin.
she's also Raiden, so like I it
Like, y'all
just
better be watching. This is God here.
exactly. I just think it's really cool to see like voice actors do that though. Like not only create their own or create another source of income, but like also to reach out to their fan, like to their
Mhm,
real fans, and build that
mhm.
community. So I thought I just like maybe kind of throw that at you too. Like maybe you could, since you love playing games, whether you're good or not, if people like you, they're gonna end up
That
watching
is
you anyway.
true. I think I will. I have, a role that I hopefully can announce soon that, once that comes out, I'm hoping maybe that'll be the straw that breaks my back, and I'll get into streaming 'cause I'm really excited for that one.
I think Genshin's the big one right now. Everyone like I stopped playing it, but I think Genshin is like that's where it's at right now when it comes to like just overall everything, like the anime theme and aesthetic, the voice acting, just the gotcha game system.
I
I think
so
that's
I
where it's
think
at.
my perspective, again, is a bit different because I play other gachas, but Genshin offers a ridiculous amount of content for being what it is. Uh, yes, if you want cute boys and cute girls, you gotta spend money, but it's not cheap money. But have you ever played Fate Grand Order?
No.
Okay, I don't know about
I
y'all,
don't
but
I don't play too many gotcha games. I only played
don't.
Genshin.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
I played Fate Grand Order for, like, 2, 3 years, and that has no pity, so you can spend thousands of dollars and not get the character you want. At least in Genshin, if at 70 pulls, you're guaranteed some form of 5-star, which is
Right.
better than nothing, and let's say you don't wanna spend money, that's fine, they give out event characters, they give out currency, you can try to get lucky, there's, like, the whole housing thing in Genshin, that is so impressive to me because it's like that can be an entire game on its own. Um and exploring the world is free. I just think because I play 14, Final Fantasy 14, and that's subscription based. So for me, I can justify the content that it has. But Genshin, it really like if you're not going to spend money, the experience might, differ because you're not getting like my
The
comfort
cool
character,
characters,
but
right.
it's still offering a lot. And this game is so accessible. You can play it on your phone. I've been playing on my phone and I don't like the controls, but it is an option. It's just like people who don't have the money for a PS5 me we can have a wider variety of games to play. I still prefer PC games because my phone is not built to handle anything too big, but I think Genshin offers something really cool to the table, and especially for voice actors because that fan base is so
Oh
massive.
yeah, exactly.
When they
That's
go to
why I brought that
Genshin,
up.
oh, convention time.
Yeah, because like I've seen like how big that community is,
That's intimidating. Oh my
and like
gosh,
how
though.
much
Mhm.
like they just go to the voice actors like, oh my, like like we brought up Ann Yatko like at Acon in Texas this year, like Ann Yatko was there, Mark Winton was there, Erica Harlecker
Oh,
was
I
there.
remember that. My friend went, yeah.
Yeah, so like
And Yako, oh my gosh, she
they
is
had
my
like that
favorite
Genshin
proponent.
booth, or that
Mhm.
Genshin booth, but that Genshin panel.
Con. I think it was the
Yeah.
entire the Windbloom,
Yeah,
whatever it was
or
called.
there was that too. I didn't go to that. I got
Oh, this is
invited
a
to that
different
one.
one?
Yeah, so Acon was like another event.
I
Windbloom
went to
was
Acon.
you were there? Yeah,
I was there.
I was there too. I had press. I had
Oh,
press over
really?
there.
I think
Yeah.
I kinda just slithered around in the,
Uh
artist alley.
yeah, but like
Scrubbing
they
vines.
had a Genshin panel, and like my cousin took we took our neighbor's daughter with us because she likes Genshin,
Uh-huh.
and they went to that panel, and like it was, from what I heard, I didn't go, but from what I heard, it was like pretty crazy in there, like just
I
because it's
don't
all
doubt it.
Genshin players. So like that's why I was like saying, like I think Genshin right now is like, for especially for that younger crowd, like
Mhm.
that is where. he can really like just build that fan base there.
I remember seeing, because A-Kon was my first con during the convention or during the pandemic. I remember going in to A-Kon and being like, everybody is cosplayed in Genshin Impact. What is going on? Because I know it's popular, and I actually beta tested the game before it came out. And I got like a bunch of primo gems from doing that. That was great. And I already knew this game was like, this game is really fun. It reminds me of Breath of the Wild, but it has unique differences that I really liked. And also because I'm Chinese, I love Liyue. I love that entire region. I love all the characters in there. I think it's really cool. Zhong is one of my favorite characters in
Oh,
video
he's my
games.
favorite. He's such a Chad.
He's
He's my
so well
he is
done.
my favorite character in Genshin.
They
Him and
made him
Kazuha, they're my
they
favorite.
made him so marketable. That design, that voice. I play in Chinese, but the English voice also excellent. Chinese voice excellent. Cool attacks, cool ults. They were like, how can we make money? Oh, that Zhongli is the way to go. Same with Ningguang Beidou. Those are also two really good pairs. I don't know. If I ever get to read for Genshin, it'd be so cool. I don't know though, but they recently did start casting people from not LA, so maybe, but
Hopefully.
I don't know. I don't know.
Hopefully. I
It
mean,
would be
even
really
if it's like
cool.
a minor role, like you're still in the game, you know?
That is true. That is true. I if this is like Molly's dream world, a Liyue character ideally would be be so happy. If I could, especially if I can like if I had Chinese lines, oh my god, that'd be so cool. But
That'd be cool
no,
too. They
I'll take
like
what I can get.
they let you do both English and the Chinese dub.
No,
That'd
no.
be really cool.
No, I don't think they're gonna do that, but it would be really cool. There's like a show coming up next season for Crunchyroll where the Japanese voice actress does the sub and the dub, and she actually recorded it here at Crunchyroll. And I remember seeing like pictures on the Crunchyroll Twitter about it, where she like does like a poses in front of the studios and stuff. So that is a possibility. But I don't know. I don't think Genshin's gonna do it. That Genshin Chinese studio dub has a lot of actors that they've worked with for a really long time for Honkai and
Yeah.
their previous games, and I like the fact that they've kept those voice actors because I like that when studios do that. Like, we worked with you for a while, we like what you did, and here we're gonna keep giving you work because there's like that really good collaborative relationship there.
And it's also for like the fans to like recognize. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like I know like for Raiden's character, right? I know that
They
the
kept
same actress does for her and then for the Honkai variation of her too. So like
mhm,
I
mhm.
know like fans
Yeah, the
like to
Chinese
see
and the
that.
Japanese are the same. Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. That's always really cool. I'm excited for that.
Okay, so we are a little over an hour in here, Molly.
Mhm.
I do want to get to some of these fan questions here.
Oh, okay.
Don't get me wrong, I love our conversation, and I
Uh-huh,
wish we can go on.
uh-huh.
Honestly, we could go on, but I do want to, you know, because all the fan questions came in today, which was funny because
Ye
I made this post last night,
uh-huh.
and then I was at work looking at all this. I'm like, people are really asking these questions. I had to like really look, and then yeah, you know, so I have to go through this list here really quick.
Oh, boy.
There are things we've already covered, so some of these questions may not be asked. So
Mhm,
to the people on Twitter that posted those questions, I'm sorry if I don't get to your question. Um, but that's this first one here is from What's in My Head podcast, or Julian. That's my boy there.
mhm.
He asks, which character did you slip into easiest, and which character was more difficult?
So, the easiest one is kind of unexpected for me, but it was Hachimitsu in Shikimori is Not Just a Cutie. That was my first anime role that had a name character, and it was my first time recording in person. So I didn't expect it to be what I fell into the easiest because I was shaking. I was if that engineer, that Jamal was so nice to me. I every time I see him now, I'm just like, I love you so much. You're so cool. But that role, that I don't even know how Emily knew. Maybe Emily didn't even know. I think she knew. But as soon as they're like, okay, let's do a test for the voice, and that first take is what they went with. And that's when I was like, oh, I didn't even know I had this voice in me because she's like this, like really whispery, like really sleeping character that's not all there. And she's like, we have theories on whether or not she's actually human, but it's fine. She's just a very different from my regular voice, and so I was expecting to not when I first saw the casting assignment for her, I was like, "Oh, my voice is not that high, I cannot do this." And then once we went into the booth, though, it didn't take much, and then we just kind of fell into it, and I loved that's probably one of my favorite shows because it was my first one, and it was just so cool. And I loved everyone that worked on it. I've had just I love seeing the feedback on that character because it just seemed like everyone had a good time watching her, and I did too. And it was one of my favorite experiences in voice acting. But that one was the easiest one I fell into, and I think keeping that voice there because it's so different from my regular voice, it was unexpectedly easier than I expected it to be. I said expected like 4 times right there. And then the hardest one was back in 2020. It was my very first studio role ever. It was my first time not doing a fan dub or an indie project. It was Mulan in Smite, and this is I did her base voice pack, and then I did 2 for skins. And that first day though, I had only done her base voice pack, and I was a new voice actor. I had no idea what I was doing, and I really wish at the time, all my friends had not quite gotten to the studio scene yet. I was the first one to start booking with studios, and so I didn't really have anyone to turn to and ask, like, "Oh, if I'm going to go in tomorrow, what do I need to bring? What do I need to do? How does this work? Is there like because there's like clothes that you should avoid wearing, dangly jewelry, glasses. There's a lot of questions that I had, and I didn't really know who to ask. And so when I went to that session, I was sick. I had a cough. I was sniffling. It was not a good time. And I was like, if I don't go into my session tomorrow, I'm gonna get recast. So I have to go, even if I'm sick. So I went in, and this character, when I got booked, I didn't see official art of her yet. And she was a lot deeper than my. I can tend to go higher, but I have a hard time going lower. And so she was a lot lower than my natural pitch. She had an accent, and it was my first time recording in studio. So it was a lot to try to do on top of not feeling super great. And so that session was hard. I remember going back for the skin, and I heard the voice, and I was like, "Oh my god, I do not know how to replicate it." And then I because I was a newer actor, I hadn't at that point in time kind of learned how I want to approach these characters, what kind of personality I want to give them, and how I want to portray this character. So that was just not my best work, and I don't I really wish I could go back and redo it, but that one was my hardest one to stay in character for. I loved what we ended up with, but I just feel like you're gonna have this feeling all the time as a voice actor. You're gonna feel like, oh, I wish I could redo it and make it better. You're gonna like, as soon as you leave the booth, you're like, I could have done that better. You're gonna have that all the time. But this one was my strongest. I could have done that better.
I do want to just throw this in there. Like you playing Hachimitsu like, threw me off big time because like I was
Uh-huh.
watching the anime. I was like I wanted to figure out like how your I guess your work was done,
Mhm.
and hearing you speak compared to how you did her voice in the show,
Yeah.
it was so different. I was like, yo, like this is her voice is like so, like the way how you did that character is it was just I thought it was very funny because like she's so monotone in a way, like
Uh-huh.
especially like in the beginning, like that bowling scene where they're bowling and Hashimizu just goes up there and she just like barely talks and
Whoop.
just rolls the ball and then like it
Yeah.
just I thought that was just so great. Like the way
Mhm.
how you bring that character, like the way how you did that character's role, I thought it was just really different from how you speak now.
It
So I got
is
in my
very
head like
different.
as you were explaining how you said it was easy, in my head I'm just like it didn't even sound like you. Like it's I thought it was someone else
How
if I
you
heard your
approach
voice.
her voice is like every time before my session, I'm like, I gotta yawn a few times, and then I'm like, okay, now I'll be here. And then that's how you get into the voice. The engineer's so used to seeing me do that. I'm like, hey, don't look at me for a second. I need to yawn a few times, and then you can look at me. That's how you get into the voice of Hachimitsu. I had a friend, Kevin Thelwell, he had come to see my session, and I was like, I can't do it when you're here watching me. I can only do I like you gotta give me I can't do it now. But no, it's I fell into her a lot easier than I thought. Cause again, like you said, it's so different from my natural voice. I thought it was gonna be a struggle the entire time, but it was really fun.
So this next question here, I don't know because I know you said that some of your friends ask these questions too, so I don't know if you want me to ask.
You can ask it and I'll decide if we're gonna answer it because I already know some of them were just like Final Fantasy 14 related.
Okay, so alright, uh, let's see if you want to answer this one because this one has like a few likes on it too. From Min Tan, he says, "What's the
Uh-huh.
best class in Final Fantasy 14 and why?"
So Min Ton just started playing Final Fantasy 14, and I have been playing this game. I need to give some context or else it won't make sense. But I've been playing this game since high school. I have met friends on that game that I've known for decades now. Okay, I haven't been alive for decades. That I've known for a decade now. And they've gone to my college graduation. They've gone to my high school graduation. They
Oh
watched it
wow.
virtually. And I finally met one of them for the first time this summer at a convention. And he's like one of my best friends ever. But it's a game that they call it the boomer MMO, which I don't think it's true because World of Warcraft is right there. But it's a long game. It's very old. I think it's like 10 years old now, and Min is young. So Min playing it for the first time, this is not his era of gaming. This is very different for him. So trying to explain to him what to do and what to play is hard. I I would recommend anybody who is watching, and also Ricky, I recommend playing Final Fantasy 14 because it's so good. It has my favorite voice acting performances. The story is so good. And the voice acting in that game is done by a British cast. It's done by Side UK. And the voice acting is so good. These are voices that you don't hear on your day-to-day for anime or video games. And their performances, they very, very much bring that theater flair. All of the performances are very they're not anime. It's just not. It's the opposite of anime. I really enjoy hearing it. And I, this is gonna be my blanket answer for all the Final Fantasy questions. But for me, I used to raid full time back in high school on Scholar. So to me, Scholar is the best class, but I know Min is not going to play Scholar, so take that as you will, Min.
We'll go to the next one. I'm familiar with what that game is because I have a friend who does play 14.
Uh-huh.
I've never played. I was never really good at
It is
MMOs.
time consuming.
Yeah, I was
Uh-uh.
even like I even tried playing Warcraft because like my uncles would always play it and they had
Oh.
like they had the team speak and all that stuff. So I thought I that's the only reason why I wanted to play because I thought that was so cool that you do raids together with the party and
Mhm.
stuff. But I
Mhm.
was never good at those games. Like you're familiar with like that old Leroy Jenkins meme in World of
Mm.
Warcraft where like Leroy Jenkins and he just ran through like they were like the videos apparently like the party like yeah we have this plan, we're gonna go in there and do our thing, and the guy Leroy Jenkins just like runs right into wherever they're at and like just starts attacking and they all end up dying because he didn't go
Oh.
in there with the plan. So that's
Well,
exactly how I
I
play.
mean,
Like I
that is your MMO experience in a
yeah.
nutshell, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not a good team player. I just go in there and just start button smashing and just like hope for the best.
Fair.
Let's see here. Let's see if I can find another. Um, there's a lot of stuff we've already covered. So,
Yeah, that's good.
um, okay, so there is one from M here. I want to say that's she. Uh, they ask who is objectively the best voice actor and why is it you? And also, what type of work is your favorite to do?
Well, M is one of my favorite people ever, so thank you for asking that. The best voice actor is not me, but I appreciate she comments on all of my posts saying, Molly Zhang, my favorite voice actor voicing girl 3CA," and she's fantastic. She's one of my first friends in voice acting, and if I hadn't met her early on, I don't know if I would have continued voice acting because that you want that support early on. Because when I started voice acting, actually, I think many people who start voice acting, when you start, you hate the sound of your own voice, and then like after some time, you kind of like, oh, I'm kind of bored of hating my voice now. I think I can do it now, and you gotta go through that phase. But I really like anime. I really love anime, but I think video games are where I have the most freedom. So you don't have lip flaps most of the time. And you kind of have just a line, and that's what you can focus on performing. ADR is you got to do what the character's doing. And it's like a different form of acting. And I really enjoy that too. And now that I'm doing it more, I can see improvements as I go along. I think when I first started, luckily I started with Hachimitsu, who's a bit more subdued emotionally, because these bigger emotion scenes, I'm just like, I don't know how to get there with this kind of flap. And I think video games, you don't have that barrier, and so that makes things a lot easier. But I don't know. I enjoy both commercials. I haven't really touched on animations. I haven't really touched on. So I would say video games are my favorite just because I'm also most into video games right now. So if I get a video game role, I'm so excited for it. And then anime, this is my happy place is anime, and video games is where I can be like, oh my god, this is the carnival, and you have some extra fun on top.
Okay, so and this will be the last fan question here. From Joshua Waters, they ask, let's see, what do you believe are the main? Okay, so let me just try to reword this because the way how he typed this is,
Yeah.
okay. So what do you think are the main things that keep that? What are the things that you keep in mind when you are auditioning, and how do they affect your takes?
That's so funny. A lot of the time I go into auditions with head empty. Because I know there's a method and formula that some actors do to approach auditions, but for me, I kind of if there's pictures, I really like having pictures. If there's pictures, I tend to ignore the voice description that they have because the thing is, if I don't have it, I just don't have it. So I rather not read that because I like to try to audition for everything that's within my range. Just because a lot of times now productions they'll send out the auditions for maybe the three main characters and then they'll cast a bunch of bits and other stuff off of the auditions that you submit. So I like to try to audition for as much as I can. And when I read the voice description and it'll say like textured or raspy and I don't have that, I block that off and I want to give my own take. And the characters that when I'm reading it, I fall into it easier. I think those are going to be my best auditions. I try to be mindful of what they're asking for, but also what I want to give them. Because if everyone gives them what they're asking for, you're gonna have 300 auditions that sound like they made the same acting decisions, and I would like not to do that, but it's kind of inevitable at the end of the day. Um, but for me, I try to read it through once, and then I try to I have like a picture of of my favorite character in Final Fantasy 14 right here, and so I read the line, and then I try to like look at him, and then I try to like have a conversation with him through this character, because I've noticed I get pigeonholed into anime a lot, so I try to talk as I'm looking at Anime Man. I try to talk like a normal person. That's what I try to focus on the most in auditions, and I've noticed that my most successful auditions, even if I don't get cast, maybe I get called back. They tend to be the ones where I don't overthink it because I do that a lot. Let's say an audition is only 3 lines, I'll spend like 20 minutes on it and I'll keep re-recording, and then by the time I go back to edit, it all sounds the same. I didn't make any monumental decisions where like, oh, this is the Oscar performing when no, it just ends up sounding the same. So whenever I overthink it is when I suck the most.
Yeah, I can agree with that too. Like even when I'm like doing editing, like for the podcast, so, like I'll hear myself speak, and I have
Mhm.
to like readjust, or I have to like take notes and like, okay, so this is what I need to work on, so like I don't have to like sound so repetitive at times. Because
Mhm.
I've noticed that that's how I whenever I speak with guests, like I try not to be so repetitive or ask the same things over and over again. So
Mhm.
I try not to do that, and it's tough. And like kind of like you said, like I don't
Yeah.
like hearing the sound of my voice either. I get so irritated with myself, especially.
Everyone goes through that. Something about hearing your voice back, it doesn't sound like how you sound in
Oh yeah,
person. It sounds different. People aren't gonna understand it until you have them sit in front of a microphone and just record them doing something, and then they hear it back. I had a lisp, for the longest time. I didn't even know I had it until I started voice acting, and then I had to fix it, but I get what you mean there. Mhm.
well, as we come to the end here, Molly, I
Mhm.
do want to just say thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation. I know I
Oh,
said I was nervous
good.
earlier. Yeah,
Oh, don't
I
be, don't be.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know why I was just so nervous. Maybe it was just because like I didn't think I was gonna get that kind of response on Twitter
Uh-huh.
because I'm barely on there. I only go there on there to just to post and promote, and that's it. I'm gone. I don't really
Uh-huh.
stay there and look at stuff. So, getting all that like interaction on Twitter was like new for me. I
Uh-huh.
was like, whoa, like because there's some voice actors that I followed that like retweeted and liked the post. I'm like, okay, so that's different for me. Like that was a new high for me. I'm like, whoa, okay, so this is new. So I was a little bit nervous coming into this, but as we've done this episode, like I'm very glad that I had this conversation with you. It's definitely more I love having these more like kind of heart to heart talks with voice actors, especially. That way, I
Mhm.
don't sound too much like a fan, and just more
Uh-huh.
like I can just speak to you like a regular person. Like
Yeah,
it's really
no,
cool.
with certain voice actors, I think mostly you're gonna get my type where we're just like, oh yeah, let's talk about stuff. There, I totally recommend. There's some voice actors that have just a wealth. The thing about voice acting is everybody's so good about helping everybody else, especially if you're like in the same circle as a couple people that you don't really know, but like you reach out and ask for advice. I don't think I've had the experience where I've messaged someone like, hey, can I ask you to help me out with this? I don't think anyone has ever said no. June Yoon is one of the biggest sources of like just knowledge, experience, and like VO dad wise, like you've got so many people to reach out to and help out. And I saw him retweet the tweet, so he's such a sweetheart. I think he is just. If I had to pick my VO parents, hands down, I would take June any day.
Yeah, I saw him retweet that. And it's funny because like he was on a another podcast friend of mine, like on
Mhm,
her podcast, and
mhm.
she brought like I've heard of his name before. So when I saw him retweet, I'm like okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like
He is fantastic. Totally recommend getting him on here if you want, because he's got so much knowledge of the industry and also the Korean voiceover language, settings as well.
oh, for sure. I'll definitely reach out to him for sure. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
that'll be because like I've been trying to like not just have voice actors on, but I do like to learn or talk about like all that behind the scenes stuff, like with the whole ADR
Mhm.
thing and just like script or stuff like that. Not just like what do you think of the anime? Like usually
Yeah,
that's
that
like
would be really cool to
yeah,
get, like,
because like
script writers and stuff. I don't even know how that works, so that would be really neat.
because like at conventions, like I don't want to be that fan at the convention that asks like the same question that they
Oh,
get. So
no. I
like
know exactly what you're talking
yeah, so
about.
like when I have voice actors on here, I'm
What's your
trying not to.
favorite role?
Yeah, I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to get like more
Mhm,
of an inside look at what you do for your job versus like, do
mhm.
you think that Deku and Bakugo are friends? Like I don't want to ask something like
Oh.
that.
To be fair though, most voice actors they love talking about their characters so much, they probably will just answer it with all the enthusiasm in the world, but I do know what you mean because you do hear the same questions quite often. Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm trying not to do that, but
No, you had great questions, yeah.
yeah, thank you. No, that's why I enjoyed this conversation with you because like it really brought like a different side to hopefully for anyone who is watching or listening to this episode. Like it gives it gives the audience a different aspect of what and how you're doing these things. It's
Mhm.
not as easy as just being in the booth and recording and then sending out that
Oh,
file. There's just
mhm.
so much more effort and so much more work to it, and that's what I like talking to voice actors because in a way it's kind of like the podcasting stuff too because I have to edit, I have to make clips, and I have to promote and do all this stuff. So it's
Mhm.
not just doing this is easy. It's what you do
Uh-huh.
after that's what's
Uh-huh.
hard. Yeah,
That's what they say. They say that the job itself, when you go into the booth, that's the easy part. The hard part is doing all of your auditions and maintenance work in between.
yeah,
Definitely, hands down. And it's difficult, but it's not undoable. I think as long as you can vocalize sounds out of your mouth, even if it's only creature noises, you still have a place in voice acting. Definitely. I think it's worth trying out to anyone who's interested. Again, acting background is and I say this as if I have an acting background, I don't, but it is very valuable to have, so I'm told.
no, but it's great though. It's good to hear from someone who knows that, right? Who doesn't have the background but knows that. It's not like you're saying like you don't need it to be successful. No, it is something that'll help you propel in the industry.
Very little will hurt you
Yeah,
in this
yeah.
industry, like, in terms of acquiring skills and knowledge, but acting, because it is voice acting, so you do want to know how to act, yeah.
Right. Well, Molly, did you have anything like any last words at all for the audience or viewers or whatever? Like anything you wanted to say before we close all this up?
I feel like I talked a lot, so thank you everybody for listening to me, and, yeah, that's about it.
Oh, and how can if folks want to follow you, how can they reach you like on social media and stuff?
Oh, I'm awful with social media, but I am on Twitter at Malo Zhang. Malo is an endearing term because Molly Zhang was taken as a common Asian name. But Malo Zhang is Mollo, and my friend from, you guessed it, Final Fantasy 14 gave me that name, and I've just kind of stuck with that. I just made an Instagram. Oh yeah, I just made an Instagram and then I never logged on again. That's also at Malo Zhang, and if anything else, it'll be at Molly Zane. And then I have a website at mollyzane.com.
Perfect. I'll have all that information on like the show notes and stuff. So for folks who do want to follow you, they can click on those links. But again, Molly, thank you so much for this. I truly enjoyed this, and it's a great way to kind of like, you know, for just me to close off the year too, because I you were on like the last 5 episodes I'm doing for this year. So it's great to like
Woohoo!
to end like
Yeah,
to
kudos
still
for you on
ending this year.
consistency too. That's not easy.
Oh, honestly, I thought I could have been more consistent. I think the last 3 months I've been like struggling to be
Oh,
consistent. Yeah, I think I could have been better, but I was like
we say
just
that with everything.
yeah,
Oh, we could have done this better, could have done that better.
yeah.
Like I
It's
said.
a lot of hindsight stuff.
At least you got it done. That's
Oh
what's
yeah,
important.
for sure.
Mhm,
Oh, but no,
mhm.
but again, I just really enjoyed this. Like
Well,
to be able to
good.
come
I'm
back
glad.
to come back into this after like my I guess hiatus, and to
Uh-huh.
be consistent with this. Like you know I recorded 2 previous episodes for this one, but like just to have this one with you, and then to help kind of like round off the year, it's very inspiring and very motivational for me.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I feel like I talk so much. I'm super annoying all the time, so I'm
No,
glad.
I enjoyed it. I loved it. I would much rather have you speak versus like me asking you the question and you give me like shorthanded answers. Like that
I
is
don't
what
even know if I'm
yeah.
capable of doing that because
You
once you
made
get me talking, it's never going to end.
you made my job so much easier. Just put it that way.
Oh,
Like
good.
because I've had guests where they spoke in like just
Oh,
like they'll
no.
respond, but then it wasn't like anything I
Like
could pick
voice
up
acting
from.
guests or just like in general?
Just general. I don't want to
Oh,
point
okay,
out
because
who.
I'm like, voice acting guests, I feel like none of us ever
It-
none of us ever stop talking.
I'll just say this in general. It's just like, you know, whatever they did, it's just not saying that it's bad. It's just for me, I personally enjoy it more when my guest is engaging. Engagement for me is like
Fair. Mhm.
it shows like, oh man, they're actually into this and not just doing this because I asked them to. You
Mhm.
know, so like again, thank you for you know being
Yeah.
very talkative in this episode, which I enjoyed. But yeah, so this is, you know, pretty much it. This is episode 138 of Spoiler First Podcast. Make sure you like, share, and
138.
subscribe. Make sure you guys follow Molly. You know, make sure you guys share this episode with your friends and stuff like that. But yeah, you know, hopefully in the future I can have you back on. You know, we can just talk again and talk about anything
Yeah.
really. But this has been amazing. So thank you, Molly. Again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. Oh, and alarm goes off right as the end.
Well, this is it, you guys. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give a review and rate Spoiler Force Podcast. If you want to get all Spoiler Force updates or even peeks at behind the scenes, you can join the Spoiler Force Discord community. And if you'd like to show support, give tips, recommendations, sponsorships, or any collaborations, you can email me at rickyvang92@gmail.com.